A number of Christian groups have concerns about a parliamentary inquiry into cults and outlawing coercive behaviour in cults and religious groups. A leaked email from the office of Renee Heath, a Victorian MP, says one of her staffers was emailing the Samuel Griffith Society, which is a conservative legal group, legal think tank, encouraging them to make submissions against the inquiry. And the concern really here is that by outlawing coercive practices, this is going to be yet another set of laws at the disposal of the Victorian Labor government that could be potentially manipulated to crack down on churches. And when you look at the direction of, here in New South Wales, we have the Conversion Practices Act. It says even if a person consents to conversion practice, which could include something like prayer, they're unable to do so, and the minister or the pastor could get in trouble. So I understand the anxiety here. Anytime you're handing over power to the government, especially when it comes to faith and the operation of churches and religious institutions, that's dangerous. And the staffer in this email warned, we risk creating an idea of state-sanctioned religion rather than just let churches exist and operate.
So no one agrees that coercive behaviour is okay. The problem is who defines coercive behaviour and how. So the committee are talking about examples of coercive behaviour would be where you use a social event to build rapport with people you're trying to recruit.
Yeah,
well,
that's obviously...
every union does that. Every sporting club does that. You're going to outlaw that. The promising of higher knowledge. Well, every religion holds out the promise of higher knowledge. According to the committee, that could be coercive control. Using charismatic leaders would be...
Yeah.
What? So you've got
there goes Jesus,
who have zero personality. I mean, another example is insider language and symbols. Well, what organisation doesn't use insider language and symbols in order to build community and a sense of us? So
going after the Freemasons now.
I understand these things can be pushed to an extreme, but do we really trust government to define these things correctly and not use them as leverage to start having shots at people whose beliefs they don't like? Though the committee assure us it's about practices, not beliefs. But you mentioned the conversion practices ban, where prayer, even for someone wanting prayer, they can't even elect to have someone pray for them. The government says no. So I don't know that we would trust governments to make good decisions on this.
No, I think the Victorian government has obviously shown itself to be extremely anti-religion, and we all know, well, I think Dan Andrews pronounced judgment on George Pell's guilt or innocence in a press release, despite the High Court finding otherwise. So I think it is problematic, and I think often you have sort of, secular progressives who just don't get religion, just don't understand. And to them, it all just seems like a cult. It all seems like this sort of dangerous, crazy, wacky thing. And I don't think they have the imagination or the empathy to understand how incredibly deeply important it is to people and how much a part of their sense of worth and sense of self it is. And you only have to look through history. I mean, this is for some people, this is the question of whether or not they have eternal salvation or rot in the ground. And that's how much people believe that. And for someone who says, oh, well, that's all just balderdash, that's all rubbish anyway, you stupid lumpen prole, that takes away their entire sense of self. I do think that on the other side, there is the question of conversion therapy, and sort of, I kind of liken it to if someone had cancer and said to their pastor, I've got cancer, and the pastor said, don't worry about seeing a doctor or whatever, we're going to have a prayer circle and we're going to pray the cancer away. That is where I think you get into that sort of difficulty where someone could have a perfectly normal, natural physical condition, i.e. they're gay or whatever it might be, and people say, no, that's the devil inside you. We're going to get that out of you and be good for you. And you say, thank you very much, Reverend, please, thank you.
But any
that's the problem.
State encroachment on the activities of the church is dangerous.
It can be.
And you just look at the terms of this. Any church that has any institution with a charismatic leader with social activities, you could frame anything like that.
I'm not sure you can go that far. For instance, the government have said if you're going to work with kids in a church, you need a working with children check. Now, that's government encroachment on church, but we would all support that.
Yeah, but
So
churches...
you can't say any limit on churches or any regulation is bad.
Well, of course, you can't take it to the extreme. But at the same time, I think most churches, if they're truly Christian, would self-regulate and have safe working with children practices anyway.
Well, history shows us that's not the case.
Unfortunately, that's true. But I just think in this case, when you're starting to define cults and the risk of this becoming just another way to clamp down on churches is just too high.
The first thing I thought of when I read this was just the other day, Jacinta Allen, the Victorian Premier, when asked about the appropriateness of 5-year-old children being taught they might be born in the wrong grade 5. No, 5-year-old children being told they were born in the wrong body. And she said it was disgusting for anyone even to suggest that this was wrong to teach kids. And so that clearly is imposition of a belief and a set of values on the Victorian public.
But to tell them they have been born in the right body.
So would you trust them on this inquiry? I'm not so sure.